My name is Christina Donald. I am the Senior Director for WYMAN's National Network. In that role, I support our over 60 partners across the nation to implement evidence-based programs in their local community. And my counterpart here is Nate Hilliard.
Hello, I'm Nate Hilliard. I'm the Training and Program Replication Manager for the National Network. So I support organizations across the country who are looking to improve programs and services to young people and adolescents. I'm very glad to be with you all today.
Great. All right. So our quick disclaimer here. These are the views expressed by WYMAN, Christina, and Nate in the research that we found, not necessarily the Department of Health and Human Services. Couple of pieces here. I already had a question in the chat that I shot off a quick response to. So what are we doing here? How do we hope to spend our time? One, we hope that the participants in this session here will learn some specific techniques around what we call high quality facilitation. Those techniques are coaching, modeling, scaffolding, and facilitating. They can be used across any positive youth development program to help support the overall positive outcomes for youth. We hope that our participants will be able to identify opportunities for when and how to use those techniques within their programs, again, resulting in positive outcomes for our young people, as well as providing some hands-on examples of employing the 4 techniques that we're going to cover. So who are we? Again, you know our names, Christina and Nate, but we are here representing WYMAN Center, which is an organization based out of St. Louis, Missouri. We were founded in 1898, quite some time ago. Our goal really here, our mission is to empower teens from economically disadvantaged circumstances to lead successful lives and build strong communities. And we do that in a variety of different ways, utilizing, again, evidence-based positive youth development programs. So for our roles, Nate and I, we work within the National Network Department, which that goal, again, is to replicate these programs across the country. 2 programs that we are currently replicating is WYMAN's Teen Outreach Program, as well as a new program that is just out of the research stage, and that is WYMAN's Teen Connection Program. So we have received some national recognition for both of those programs. So both WYMAN's Teen Outreach Program is a part of the CASO listing or CASO listing for social emotional learning, as well as just newly added the Teen Connection Program. And then as you can see on the slide there, the Teen Outreach Program also has been recognized by the Department of Health and Human Services, Blueprints for Healthy Youth Development, as well as Weichert Center for Youth Program Quality and Susan Crown Exchange during an SEL challenge. So both of those programs really help support young people with social emotional learning competencies overall. And all the work that we do at WYMAN is really undergirded by this framework for thriving youth. So these are the pieces that are really important to us as an organization overall, regardless of the programs that we are implementing with our young people. The thought here is that the young people have access to caring, responsive, and knowledgeable adults. They are well trained and they are focused on building relationships with the young people to create engaging and empowering environments. That the young people have the support that they need to build on the skills. We know that young people come to us already with a lot of competencies, and so our goal and role there is to help support them as they continue to refine and further develop those skills and competencies. To make connections to others and their world and their community, so helping our young people kind of navigate through that. And overall, develop a positive sense of self. We know that adolescence is a time of growth and change, where young people are really exploring their thoughts, their views, and their values of and how they perceive and see the world. And our goal there is just, again, to help support them as they develop that sense of self. And ultimately, our goal here is to help young people achieve educational success, develop healthy behaviors and relationships, exhibit life and leadership skills, and contribute positively to their communities. So again, one kind of way that we really focus on supporting our young people overall in their development is this notion around social connections and sense of Sorry, I got muted some kind of way, like there's gremlins in the thing here or something. Young people connect to people, not the programs, right? So instead, it's really about what's happening in the context of that program, what environment has the adult facilitator supported to help. I keep getting muted. Do you all not want to hear what I have to say?
We want to hear.
Thank you. Gotta love technology. All right. So really the goal there is just to help young people, because we know that as humans, we are hardwired for connection, and that's important. It's an important developmental aspect for our young people there. And so a tool and strategy that we use is really, one of the pieces that we use is intentional staff practices. And so now I will mute because Nate's going to walk us through this piece.
Yeah, so when we think about high quality facilitation and delivering programs to young people, we use this idea that Christina just introduced us to of intentional staff practices, right? Being mindful of the programmatic experiences that our young people have and designing them so that they support the development and the growth of young people's social emotional life skills and their competencies. So think about what would happen if we weren't being intentional about the work that we did with young people. How would that change our ability to support young people towards that successful transition to adulthood? And how would we be supporting them for the skills that they needed in life in the years to come? It would be very difficult for them to really practice and to bring development into those skills in a way that will be meaningful to them if they don't have those proper supports from us as the program implementers to be able to assist them throughout that process. So what kind of supports are we talking about when we think about providing intentional staff practices? Well, first I want to start with this idea of structure and interaction, right? Two things that teenagers love to have with us, right? Structure. We know anytime we work with young people, they might be pushing at the bounds to try to get out of that structure, right? We're constraining them, we're confining them, and they just want to explore and be themselves. And that's completely normal. And we know that our interactions with young people, they might not always go the way that we had planned. We might have the best intentions, and we might come off to young people as terrible, punishment-laden authorities or people who don't care. The more practice and intentionality that we put into place for structure and interaction, the better relationships that we can make with young people. And as Christina has told us, young people attach to people before they attach to program. So when we can develop healthy relationships with young people, we're more likely to be able to bring them program implementation in a way that will be important to them and for them, and again, support our overall outcomes and the development of young people's skills and abilities. So when we talk about structure, it's a couple of things. Structure can be the routines that we establish in our program implementation. Maybe there's a way that we start the day together each time that we meet. We might have a group cheer. We might have a song of the day. We might have just a chance to check in and say how we're feeling. And our young people will also know that we'll move from that check-in to our lesson or our activity. And that, again, at the end of our time together, we'll take a moment to pause, to think about the importance of what we've done, and then to move into the rest of our day. So having that routine down, having that known space where young people are able to predict what is going to happen will really help them in their development, because they're able to recognize what's forthcoming, and they're being able to know that this is a place of routine, and safety. And safety is a huge point because creating a safe space
Did you get all the
is
paperwork
the
done?
most important part
turned in?
of structure that we can point for young people. Being able to take the time to say, this is a place where all young people belong, that is free from emotional and physical threat or harm, where young people feel included for who they are and have the time and ability to determine who they are and who they want to be, all help provide the structure that is necessary for any great positive youth development program to be successfully implemented. The other side of this is interaction, how we engage with young people, reminding them that we're glad to see them, that no matter what is kind of happening outside of our activity time, outside of our programs, that when we step into that space with our young people, they are 100% our focus, and that we are excited to be with them, that we are taking our interactions forward in a teen-centered method to be able to provide the programs and services that they need and deserve, and we're keeping everything about our teens, not about us as the adults, right? We've already done some of this. This is their time to explore and to learn and to develop. The other piece that we talk about when we talk about high quality facilitation is when we have structure and interaction in place, it allows for us to have caring, responsive, and knowledgeable staff build strong, supportive relationships with teens. So I'm going to ask you to take a second and use that chat feature to tell me, when you see this first half of this phrase that is in red, caring, responsive, and knowledgeable staff building strong, supportive relationships with teens, what does that look like to you? Why is that important? Take some time and throw that into the chat so we can have some great ideas here as we think about moving forward. I see some folks talking about the point of knowledge, right? So having a lot of information about trauma, about being inclusive of all communities is a huge, huge aspect of this work. I see a lot of folks talking about developing healthy relationships, just being able to have those side conversations, right? We don't always have to talk about what the adults in the room want to talk about. Take some time every day and check in with young people about what's going to be important to them, what's going on in their life, right? Being able to establish ourselves as that trusted adult so that young people know that they can come to us and they can talk to us about things that are important to them. They can talk to us when things are relaxed, but they can also come to us when they're stressed, when they've got problems elsewhere, because they know that we are going to respect them and support them and assist them with what they might. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the second half of this. Thinking about creating engaging and empowering program experiences for young people. How does this tie back into the idea of structure and interaction when you think about engaging and empowering program experiences? What might be important there, or how might structure and interaction allow for this idea of engaging and empowering program experiences? And why is it important that we engage and empower our young people during this program time? So take another minute, add in some thoughts there. We'd love to have this chat continuing to build throughout our conversation here, right? It's so important to have these experiences for our young people, because this is exactly how I'm looking at the live feed typing in. These are great, right? This is how our young people get the practice to support and develop those skills. This is how young people have that hands-on learning experience, that they get to figure out what their leadership role and opportunity is going to be. All of those are excellent, so thank you very much. When we think about providing high-quality facilitation for young people, we think about doing it through using 4 major techniques. Now, somebody asked as soon as we started about whether or not our presentation would be focusing specifically on virtual implementation. It's not. It is for working with young people in any capacity. So I want to encourage you to think about these 4 techniques and how they will manifest in your program implementation, whether you will be delivering programming virtually in the future, or whether you're in a position where you're able to be face-to-face and interact in person with young people. Regardless of which of those it might be, or if you're using a combination of both, these techniques of high quality facilitation are going to be able to play a really important role in serving your young people. So let's take a look at what these techniques are. First, we've got facilitating, right? Being able to help foster and sustain youth-led group dynamics for successful collaboration. When we talk about implementing program with young people for WYMAN's evidence-based programs, we specifically use the term facilitator instead of educator or lecturer, because we want our programs to be beholden to the ideas and the efforts of our young people. Our adults are there as the authority figure to help guide and lead discussions, but we primarily want to elevate and to empower that youth voice and interaction. And we're able to do that when we can help create and maintain those great youth-led dynamics. The second technique is scaffolding, right? So our facilitators use or they set up skill building opportunities to meet a young person's current skill level, interest, and connection, and to challenge them in a way that allows them to grow and develop those skills further. When we talk about scaffolding, we're talking about meeting young people where they are, establishing activities or expectations where a young person may be capable of meeting that, but also has the room to be able to grow and to develop over time, right? To keep things challenging but possible. So our young people aren't challenged to the point where they shut down or they leave programs. Because we know if young people aren't being challenged, if things are too simple and too easy, or we have low expectations of them, what does that tell them about their importance? Right? It doesn't emphasize how great they are and what they can do. But if we make things challenging but possible, we give young people the opportunity to learn and to grow, to rely on their peers, and to be able to ask for help and support when it's required. We're allowing them to practice those skills in the safe space that we've created through our structure and interaction, and we're allowing them to develop those skills over time. And we know that the skills that our young people develop, they don't just stay in program time, right? These are the skills that they are going to use for everything that they do in life. So it's essential here to our successful transition to adulthood to scaffold our young people for success. Our third technique is modeling, that we as the adult facilitators demonstrate or exhibit practices, characteristics, and skills that we want our young people to develop, right? If I want young people to be able to really learn and benefit from my modeling, I have to have an appropriate, healthy relationship with young people, right? They have to be connected to me as that caring facilitator if I want them to pay attention to the subtle things that I'm doing or the overtly direct things that I'm doing as well. And we often talk about the idea that teenagers might be listening to about 10% of what we say on a good day. Again, completely normal, but they are always watching. So we need to be mindful of what and how we are modeling for young people, because it's something we're always doing. How are we modeling our communication skills when we engage with our colleagues? How are we modeling with our empathy skills when we are responding to a young person in need? How are we modeling our leadership skills when we lead a club or we lead an activity with our young people? These are the traits that they observe, and these are the traits that they'll internalize. So what is it that we are being able to bring them in a manner that is going to be most effective for their own skill development? And our fourth technique here is coaching, being able to make sure that we are constantly monitoring and supporting our young people's learning experience by providing feedback and encouragement. Now, when we talk about this coaching, this is not the quintessential sports coach who's got a clipboard and a whistle and is screaming while you are running up and down the field. When we talk about coaching here, we're not necessarily worried about the outcome because we know we're going to get there eventually. When we think about coaching as a technique of high quality facilitation, really what our focus is the process. How are we supporting young people in real time while they are figuring out what these skills and abilities are? So when we see a young person struggling through problem solving or decision making, how are we coaching them to think critically? How are we coaching them to weigh their options, to look at resources of information and to make healthy decisions that are going to be most important for themselves. When we think about coaching, we're thinking about being able to call out specific things that we see with our young people so that we can put a name to what they are doing. So maybe during a community service learning project, our young people are doing a great job of collaborating, sharing responsibilities, and just really having a great day of teamwork. We want to be able to call those out specifically and explicitly so that our young people can associate in their own mind what they are doing with the skill, that they're better able to access that in the future. So these are our 4 techniques of high quality facilitation. Each one of them is always in use by facilitators, right? So it's not something where we say, oh, today I'm going to model. Tomorrow I'll coach. Next week I'll get around to scaffolding. These are skills that we use every time that we engage with young people, even though what they look like in practice might be different each time that we engage young people. So we want to take a moment now and do a small group activity where you all will have the opportunity to think about how you use these skills while you're implementing your programs with young people. So I'm about to drop a file into the chat that you'll all be able to access. This file will have some instructions for you to use for this activity, as well as some thinking prompts. And so in your small group, your breakout rooms of about 4 or 5 people, we just want you to take some time to think through, do these techniques show up in your programs? Are you able to use them on a regular basis? Or are there any of them that you would like to continue to develop and improve? And of course, also, why are these important? So let me take 1 second here and make sure I send this file to everyone this time. Sorry about that. All right, now that should have gone out to everybody. If you look at your chat, you should have just received a PDF from me. Give you a second to open that up so you can have it next to you. And then I believe we are ready to break into our small groups here. And I think that our APP team is going to assist us with that. All right, so hopefully you're all getting a prompt to join your small groups. We'll give you about 10 minutes there, and then we'll come back and discuss. In just a word or two, what did you think of those high-quality facilitation technique cards? Were they helpful? Were they thought-provoking? Did they resonate with what you are already doing in program? Did you find any new ideas of something that you can take back and say, hey, this is something that we can add a little bit more intentionality to. This is something that we can give a little bit more focus. What is your quick perception of that brief activity from the small groups? All right, we've got a few folks saying that there may have been some tech issues in there. I apologize for that. But what else in terms of thinking about those statements? All right, looks like we've got some folks who are not just impressed by those card statements, but also by those of you who are in those small groups, right? Being able to share our stories, talk about the programs we use, and how we serve young people is a huge part of this, right? Excellent, excellent. All right, so as we think about being able to provide high quality facilitation to young people, that level of direct interaction to young people from an adult facilitator to a group of young people, that's one level, right? But there's another level beyond that, and that is how we support our staff to be able to really take and own those responsive practices for youth. What are we doing to ensure that our staff are best able to bring high quality facilitation to the young people that they work with? And so we're going to take a look now at that step as we think about supporting staff who are supporting youth.
All right.
Christina, down, you out there?
I'm here.
All right.
A couple of pieces, Nate. We did have someone in the chat asked if we could reshare the file for HQF. And then I am going to ask Nate that you share our observation tool as well.
All right.
So as
So
Nate
I'll
mentioned, go ahead, Nate. I'm
share
sorry.
both of those, right? I said I'll share both of those right now. And then the other thing I think we can plug is that all of these materials will be made available to you electronically as part of this conference as well, I believe.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Let's get those sent out.
Perfect. All right, so as Nate mentioned, you know, it's great that we have the opportunity to really dig into the high quality facilitation techniques. It's also great when we have supervisors and those who are responsible overall for the staff teams to be able to provide observations and feedback with regard to the use of those techniques in the programming. And so we make available a tool that is used across our network for doing just such a thing, for being able to observe and provide feedback to their teams with regard to these high quality facilitation techniques, as well as just some other core components to high quality programming overall. So in the chat here now, we should have, I'm just checking mine here now. Yep, we should have a file dropped in that's titled Handout Top Club Observation form, which really we use across, again, most of our programs here. So I want to invite everyone now to take a moment to download and open up that file and give it just a quick review. Okay, so you will note here that the first page really is just instructions and directions on how to utilize the form. Then, of course, the basic information that you're gathering as you're going out and using this form, doing your program observations. And then as you get into pages 3 through 5, it really walks you through some of those key components and things to look for that will help you to identify those areas where you see facilitators implementing high quality facilitation techniques and or areas for improvement there. So again, that tool is available. We will have that as a handout ready for everyone at the end of this session here. We are going to spend a little time with the tool in just a bit, Nate and I, but before we get in there, we want to talk a little bit about what feedback and discussion should really look like. So we know that we have many of our partners and many folks in this field that do observations, right? It's a part of your CQI. It's a part of the way in which you support the quality of your program overall. And at times, folks use a tool, they kind of dash it out real quick, and then they're gone, and it may come back up as a part of a performance review, or it may just go into an employee file. So our suggestion is really to make sure that that tool is fully utilized as a collaborative process between the program supervisor and the facilitators. So we want to make sure that as you are planning to implement your or go out and do your observations of program in action, that a part of that plan is also how and when you will be able to sit down with the staff and debrief and provide specific feedback. So ideally that would happen at the end of the session. So immediately following, once the young people are gone, you have the time and space to sit down and provide that feedback and have that conversation with your team. We know that that's not always possible, and so we just encourage for our program administrators and supervisors to do that as quickly as possible following sort of the session there. We want to start that feedback session with the opportunity, giving the facilitator opportunity to reflect on what they thought of that session. So for them to be able to say in their own words how they felt the session went, what techniques they felt they used and they did well with, and what were some areas for improvement. And so we also encourage supervisors to make this tool available to facilitators so that nothing on here is a surprise. They're clear. on what you are coming out to kind of observe and assess. And then you all have some common language to begin to really share as a part of this process. We want to make sure that the feedback is provided in a strengths-based manner. And again, that it's collaborative. As you are asking questions, what went well, you're giving some very specific feedback that is specific to their behavior and team-centric. So you're giving examples of, when you broke the groups down into smaller groups, the instructions were not as clear as they could have been, and therefore that led to some of the disruption that we saw, which took away from the ability to get right into the work of the small groups. And so then go into some suggestions, maybe perhaps ask the facilitator first, what do you think you could have done differently there? And then, shore up a suggestion with, absolutely make sure that the instructions are clear and repeat them back. But then also you may want to think about writing them down or having them written to pass out so that young people are able to quickly understand the instructions that you're providing and move into the work. And so again, we see that it's just really that opportunity to have a great conversation with the goal of improving the quality of implementation and facilitation that the young people experience in the club. So Nate and I are going to take a moment just to show a little bit, to give a little example, a little brief role play here on how a conversation may go utilizing that tool and those techniques that we just kind of covered. Nate, you're on mute.
Thank you. So just as Christina has said here, keeping these suggestions in mind, you should be able to see those now. But this will be a situation where I've observed Christina as a facilitator, and I noticed, hey, she didn't seem all that prepared for today's activities. We wanted to check in and see what's going on. All right?
Okay.
So, Christina, tell me about how you thought Team Connection Project went today.
I thought it went pretty well. As you know, I have a great rapport with the young people. So, it was good to have the opportunity just to chat with them and connect with them. So, yeah, I feel pretty good about the session.
Yeah, it is absolutely clear that you have a great relationship with these young people. I noticed that as you greeted them all at the door, you greeted everybody by name. You were asking them how things were going in their personal life, and you knew something, a tangible piece about every young person who was in that room, whether they were playing sports, whether they had a math quiz that day. There was absolutely something that you made that connection, which was really wonderful.
Yeah.
But how do you think that the activity and the delivery of that lesson content went?
Well, I think, again, overall, because we have such a strong relationship, I am able to get in there and chat with them and know, they share a lot of stuff with me, which is great, obviously within the boundaries. We're being appropriate there, but they share a lot of stuff that's important to them with me, which is great. They share with one another. They really connect, Team Connection Project, they're really connected. So I think, again, overall, that was great about the program. As far as the actual lesson is concerned, I guess there was some pieces that didn't come across as clearly as they could have.
Yeah, I noticed that too. There were a few pieces that didn't come off as clearly as they could have and probably should have. And I noticed that after you were done greeting all the young people, when you went to deliver the lesson, you were basically just reading straight out of the curriculum book. And had to pause and come back and pause and come back. In fact, there were a couple places where you then had to backtrack because you weren't familiar with that content. Can you tell me how you prepared?
Well, to be honest with you, Nate, I didn't have a lot of time to prepare. I had a paper due, and so I had to spend my time kind of doing that because I was a little behind with that, which then I had to turn that in, which I think made me a few minutes late. So my focus, for program today, so my focus was really just get in and let the young people know that, I was thinking of them and wanted to connect with them. And so, yeah, you're right. I wasn't prepared for the lesson.
Yeah. Well, and I recognize that. So thank you for also seeing it. And I heard you say that you wanted to make sure that young people knew that you were there for them and wanted to connect. And I think that's the great lens that you really bring to this program. But an important way that we can show these young people that they matter to us and that they're our priority is by ensuring that we have all of our preparation ready to go ahead of time and that we're comfortable with that lesson. Because that way, when we're in that space of TCP, all of our energy and focus is spent on our young people and their involvement in the activity rather than trying to just figure out what the activity is. The other thing that I noticed is when you were looking at the curriculum book, there were some behavior issues that were going on, a little bit of horseplay, physical confrontation back and forth, as well as some teens who were simply sharing social media with one another, and they weren't engaged at all. And so while you can build that really great connection on the way in, you then lose that connection when you have to go back to the curriculum book. And I want you to be able to keep that relationship moving all the way through the program.
Okay, that makes sense. That's helpful. Thank you.
So do you think that's something that you can work on and ensuring that all the planning is prepared ahead of time, that you've set a goal and a structure for your program? And that's something that, if you want, I'm happy to sit down with you for a couple of weeks and make sure that it's set forth and you know exactly what it'll do ahead of time, or you can be on your own to put that together and I can check in, whichever of those will be more helpful to you.
Yeah, I think I just need better time management. So, I see your point. I agree with it. I think, I need to model better behavior for the young people just with regards to being prepared. And as you said, not having any barriers to our connection. So I'll work on my time management for sure to make sure that that's prioritized, that I'm able to really be prepared and on time.
Thanks very much. I can't wait to see how you'll continue to develop this program for your young people. It's been great.
Thanks, Nate. I appreciate the feedback. All right. So that is really the sort of culmination of having that tool, having both the administrator and the facilitator really clear and understanding on what that tool is, as well as really just having that, again, collaborative conversation of kind of unpacking, getting to the root of what's happening, and then focusing on, again, specific behaviors, team specific, like how those behaviors really connected to the young person's experience. I think that is what really helped me playing that role of facilitator to say, okay, you're right, I need to do a better job at preparing because I missed some of that connection, even though coming in the door, I thought I was doing a great job because I have a good rapport. And so being able to have those specific behaviors and techniques really called out was really helpful to help the facilitator see that and then be able to put a plan in place to improve overall. So that's really the tool and how you utilize that. So we'll take a minute just to kind of reflect on our time here together, which has gone by very quickly from my perspective. So just want to take a minute, think through everything that we have had the opportunity to cover with our 4 techniques. Really that focus on high quality facilitation, which we call HQF, and then utilizing those techniques throughout the program and even into your coaching and the way that you support your facilitators on the ground. So I would like to just pause a moment and ask for you all to just chat out in the chat box any reflections or thoughts that you all have on what we've covered. So this is kind of open, but on what we've covered so far today. You may think about what this means for your programs when you get back into your communities. Was there anything that we discussed that you feel like you could take back and implement immediately? Do you have opportunities to utilize these 4 techniques? We'd be interested in hearing that type of feedback. We've got some being aware of behavior, some get information with helpful tips. Again, some questions around virtual setting, absolutely. All of HQF is interrelated, absolutely. Some folks are saying this is helpful, good to hear that. how to really be able to regulate and model for their participants, and very insightful. So it's all great and positive feedback. We appreciate that. And again, of course, our goal here is just to make sure that we walk away with some tips and tools that we can all use across our programming to support high quality implementation. And so for us to bring it all together and kind of wrap this piece up with a nice little bow, we know that, as Nate said at the beginning of our presentation here, the fundamental piece that young people need are safe and supportive environments. We know that we can help support that and overall help support them getting to positive outcomes by implementing those responsive staff practices, such as utilizing those 4 techniques. We know that we need to make sure that we have a good focus and support around social emotional learning. And all of that ultimately will help our young people get to those positive youth outcomes that we all have for the young people in the programs that we support.